Hey guys, so today I'm going to be bringing you a PC build. This is actually a really good deal. I was looking around today on some different sites and I found some really good deals. This price might vary when you watch the video, but I'm sure there's quite a few 1080s now that are around the same price as the one I picked, just because of the 1080 Ti I just released, well, is releasing next week, so they have dropped in price quite a lot. But this PC is aimed at ultra settings at 1440p, 1080p, 4K. Well, maybe not ultra on 4K, but it can definitely run 4K at 60 FPS. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. So first off, the CPU. For this build, I went with an i5-7600K Kaby Lake processor. This has a 3.8 GHz base clock with a 4.2 GHz turbo clock and a 91 watt TDP. The reason I didn't go for an i7 on this build is to keep it around the £1,000 mark, but also because it's been proven many times that an i5-70, well, in this case 7600K, but before it was a 6600K, performs pretty much exactly the same as an i7 in pretty much every single game. There might be a few exceptions, but it really doesn't make up for the extra £150 you have to spend to get, well, around £150 you have to spend to get the i7. Cooling the CPU, I've chose a Be Quiet Pure Rock Slim. It's nothing too crazy. I mean, it's going to keep your CPU pretty cool, but with this build you're not going to be really looking at overclocking anyway unless you switch out the motherboard, but we'll get more into that in a moment. But Be Quiet is a really good company. They're mainly known for their fans because they've got really good performance, but they're also very silent, so this is a really good CPU cooler to pick. If you was to go down the route of overclocking and switching out the motherboard, you might want to go something like an NZXT Kraken or like a H75 sealed water cooling unit from Corsair. But to keep this build as cheap as possible, I just went with air cooling. For the motherboard, I chose an MSI H270 PC Mate motherboard. This motherboard supports up to 64GB RAM and it's got pretty much everything you're ever going to need for gaming. But again, this motherboard isn't really made for overclocking, so if you want to be overclocking your i5, then you're going to be wanting to upgrade to something like a Z270 motherboard. This will just make overclocking 1,000 times easier. I haven't even looked into overclocking on this motherboard, so you might not even be able to do it. But to be honest, the i5 doesn't really need to be overclocked anyway. The only time you're going to be wanting to do that is if you really want to push the performance of it. It's going to be absolutely fine without being overclocked. For the RAM, I chose 2 sticks of 4GB from ADATA. This is their XPG Z1 model. These sticks are running at 2800 MHz, but you will have to tune that down to 2400 Hz in the BIOS, as this i5 only supports 2400. I also chucked in a 4GB stick of G.Skill running at 2400. If you're wondering why I mix and matched, it was mainly to do with pricing. It was a lot cheaper to just get 2 4GB sticks together and then a separate 4GB. I didn't go to 16GB because you don't really need it. I mean, I have a 1080 as well and my 12GB is absolutely fine for it, and I think 12GB RAM's the current sweet spot. You can go to 16 if you really want, but that would push it over the £1,000 which I've set myself for. If you're worried about if the RAM won't work well together, it's absolutely fine. As long as you set the speed to the same, it doesn't really matter because the RAMs will just underclock anyway to the DIMM that has the lowest speed. So they will work absolutely fine together. The only difference is they look kind of different, but for this I chose the 2 ADATA sticks are in red, but obviously you can switch the colours if you want. And then the G.Skill sticks, just a note, it doesn't have a heatsink on it or anything, but it's a black PCB. So it will hide really well in the case. I mean, I have 2 different types of brands in my PC as well, and it doesn't look bad at all because I've got two reds and 1 black, and it just goes really well together. For the hard drive, I chose a Seagate BarraCuda 1TB. Can't really say much about a hard drive, it's just a hard drive, but it's pretty fast. Unfortunately, I didn't include an SSD in this build just to keep it at the £1,000 price range. But if you did want to add an SSD, you can get them pretty cheap now. Probably you can get a 250GB SSD for around £60. So if an SSD is important to you, then you can obviously chuck one in them, but you can also put one in the future. Now for the interesting part. For this I found an EVGA GeForce GTX 1080 for the Win Edition. This is probably one of the best 1080s you can get, and I found it for around £500. The reason it's gone so cheap is because the 1080 Ti just got announced and all the 1080s have just dropped in price a crap ton. It's kind of annoying because I just bought my 1080 and then as soon as I buy it all the prices go down. But this card can run every single game out there at 1080p, 1440p and 4K. I've got my 1080 paired with a 144Hz monitor, and I'm able to get over 120 FPS in every single game, even at 1440p in many cases. There was some cooling issues with this card in the past, but don't worry, that's all been fixed now. They put some extra cooling pads. I'm not too sure where they put them. I did know, but I've completely forgot where they put them. I think it was on the memory of the graphics card, but I'm not really sure. But all I know is the cooling issues are, I think they're completely fixed now. For the case, I went with an NZXT S340. This is one of my favourite cases to put in pretty much every single build. It's cheap, well made, with really good cable management, and it also looks very nice. There's also an elite version, which is around £15 or £20 more, which has a few more premium features like a better dust filter, but you don't really need them. But also the side panel is a single sheet of tempered glass, so if you are planning on making your computer look really nice, then you could obviously upgrade to the elite. I think the elite might still be in the 1,000, like if you was to get it, it should still be around £1,000, but obviously prices change so much when you watch this video, then it might be more expensive or cheaper. For the power supply, I went with a Be Quiet BN242 600 watt. Nothing crazy, but it has an 80 plus certified rating, so you do know it's a quality PSU. And Be Quiet are known for having pretty good quality PSUs. Their fans are very quiet and really good. And obviously PSU is one of the louder things that you put in your system, so having a quiet PSU can just make a ton of difference in your case. I am probably going to upgrade to a Be Quiet PSU myself, because my current one is just really loud, and it just kind of makes it so my microphone picks up my computer as well, which is really bad. But again, really good quality PSU, and 600 watts more than enough for this system. I didn't include Windows in the price, but I mean, you can get Windows keys for so cheap now. I'll link a site in the description where you can get, I think Windows 10 Home is around £21, and then you can get Professional for £24, so it is really cheap. These keys do work. I've used them 100 times in the past, so don't worry about them being like bad keys. So yeah, thanks very much for watching this video, and in the future I'm probably going to do some more budget oriented builds. I know I said this in my last video, but after seeing that deal on the 1080, I had to make a video on it, just because of how much you can get out of £1,000 now. So yeah, thanks for watching this, and if you do decide to build this computer, make sure you let me know in the description how it went, and subscribe if you want to see more of my videos.